Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Face to Face podcast. And today we are in Shakawa Lane, which is in Dalston, I believe. Is that right?
That's correct.
Right, we're in Dalston, and we are in Masjid Ramadan. So we are actually going to be speaking about how the masjid came about. But before that, let me introduce you to my guest, Egg.
Egg is my name. My proper name is Erkin Ramadan Gunay. And yeah.
Well, then I need to say Nasr Sanabi. That's all I know. I don't know much Turkish more than that.
That's good, because mine's not that great either.
Alhamdulillah. Brother, tell us, how did you get the name Egg first?
Okay, so from the age of 3, we used to live in Angel, St John Street.
So what year was that roughly?
Well, it would have been in the 60s. I was born in 65, but if anyone asks, I'm 28.
Okay.
65, so from the age of 4, we had a record shop in St John Street called Equator Records. Recording studios, all that kind of stuff, and cater for our community.
Okay.
We're Turkish Cypriots. And my neighbour, English, Jackie Howard, she couldn't say the name Erkin,
Okay.
how it's pronounced in Turkish. So it went from Erkin to Egin to Egg.
Right.
And it's spelled E-R-K-I-N.
Right.
So it's pronounced Erkin. So it was either Egg or Erkin the Gherkin. So I chose Egg.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And it's the symbol of life.
Symbol of that, mashallah. You know, I find with a lot of names is people are really lazy in trying to pronounce, and I'm not just saying English people are lazy with non-English names, but it's the other way around as well. And if you look at the South Asian population and ask them to try to pronounce an English name, they struggle, even though they've been here for like 50 odd years. It's just, the way I see it is a little bit of laziness.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of laziness, so I would go with that.
So I'll stick with Egg, because it just sounds a bit funny. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So Egg, tell us about the masjid we're in. What is your connection to the masjid, firstly?
Well, the connection to the mosque is it's very deep, actually. It's the first Turkish mosque in the United Kingdom. That's a heavy title to carry.
Sorry, what year was that?
1977.
Oh, exactly my age.
Yeah, bless you. It was a good deal. And my dad set this up, bought the building with my mum and my uncle. Bless them both.
I mean,
Surela Gunay, mum, and my uncle, Kinal Faik, my mum's brother, and my dad. And I put the money down and bought the building. This actual building is quite a historical, quite a sacred building. It started its journey out as a synagogue.
right.
1903 Rothschild building.
Wow.
The plaque's still outside on the wall.
Okay.
And Dad bought it. It was abandoned by the community back in the 70s, and my dad turned it into the first Turkish mosque in the United Kingdom in 77. So we go back from there. We start from there. There were smaller masjids, and this was a base for our community, for the Muslim community, not just Turkish, although it carries that title. And back in those days, this was the first mosque in the area for our community, and it was a remarkable move, very clever move by my dad. And it served the community for the janazes, for the teaching of the Quran, nikahs, bring the community together, supporting people with hardship or helping people with their business ventures, that kind of stuff. I saw that all growing up. But I'm going to be honest, I struggled in the beginning with all of this, because in those days, the imams, if you don't do this, you're going to Jannah Megiddo, and you're going to hell. And I thought, we're all going to hell. We're in
Yeah.
trouble, and it's not the way. It's not the way to teach people about your path.
Sure.
And I'm a ripe age now, 59. I've got very different views. I just didn't have a good start with it. I didn't have a good relationship. However, my dad come from Cyprus.
Right.
He was actually exiled by the British government
Okay.
because he was also involved in the uprising against the actually, I'll rephrase that, with IOCA, which was a terrorist organisation in Cyprus, again backed by the British and the UN, which is the Americans. And my dad was one of the founders of a group called the Volcans. Volcans was supported by Turkey, and I hear the stories where my dad was initiating the boys from the village, swearing allegiance to the flag and to the Quran, and arming them to go and fight and save their villages, because we were being ethnic cleansed. We were being completely genocide. What you're seeing now in Palestine, very similar situation we suffered. And they gave my dad a choice. They said he was a prisoner of war
Okay.
out there. And they said, you either got to go Australia, America or UK. So he come to the UK. And he weren't allowed to go back until the 70s.
Right.
So there's a lot of history
Sure.
with all of that stuff. And, you know, we were a little bit naive. We were growing up with Western views, eating things that we shouldn't be eating, watching tellies, being slowly brainwashed,
Yep.
and believing this is the life, and being a bit misguided and a bit misled. But equally, at the same time, tradition and culture was very deep rooted with us. We were a very strong community, Turkish Cypriot community in North London. We moved from Angel to Green Lanes, Newton Green. My mum had another shop there, Music Dunyası, which means World of Music. And that helped fund the mosque, and it kept the community together. So from one end, my mum was supplying the community with their books, their romance, their tapes, their records. And it was an amazing journey. Looking back, I used to sit on the step and here's your uncle, here's your auntie, here's your first cousin, everyone was a relative. And eventually, Cyprus is a small place.
Yeah.
It's likely it's your cousin. Anyway, yeah, we had all that experience. So I had that aspect from mum's side. Mum was very much into her music, spreading her love and her message through the music. And my dad was very politically involved. We had people like Bülent Ecevit, which was the Turkish Prime Minister in those days, and Turkish Alparslan, who was the leader of the Turkish army. They all used to stay at our house. They used to come, and I used to think, oh, I've got another uncle, just really too young to understand the dynamics of what was going on. So we were very strong in the 70s. And, 80s, 90s, then the community started changing. A lot of challenges comes with all of that. My dad bought Brookwood Cemetery, which was the first Muslim burial ground in the UK. We had that stolen from us, but I think that's for another day. But Brookwood Cemetery was stolen from us. Fabricated documents, destroyed my dad's wills. It's all out there anyway.
Sure.
But I'm just trying to keep it to the mosque at the moment.
Yeah.
But there's a big story behind this journey, and today I'm here.
Yep.
The current situation is, we've all lived the pandemic.
Yep.
Or the so-called pandemic. More like a genocide in my eyes. We witnessed in the space of 2 years, 1,000 of our community passing away, which was like, it was a war zone. Dad passing away.
So when did he pass away?
He passed away. That's another story for another podcast.
Sure.
But he was actually murdered.
Okay.
And he still hasn't been buried yet, 17 years down the road.
Right.
All right, there's ongoing court cases, and we've only just overturned the judgment, and we're waiting for the judgment to be handed down.
Okay.
Because that was a part of them stealing our land, Brookwood Cemetery, and the difficulties that we've been facing.
Sure.
No one knows what we've been dealing with.
Just
like I don't know your journey.
Yep.
You're hearing this for the first time, so you know you're getting it firsthand. It has been difficult. Being the son of Ramadan Gunay was not a walk in the park. We were targeted by the police. You become a product of your environment. Sometimes you go against the grain because you don't understand. I had a very troubled upbringing. It was not an easy journey.
I was just going to actually ask you, you mentioned about your upbringing. So you're really talking about 70s and 80s. Society, British society was very different at that time. So my dad came over.
Freedom.
Yeah, my dad came in 1961, and his challenges were more based upon racism.
We suffered all of that.
Exactly. So apart from those aspects, what were the challenges? And you mentioned we had freedom. Now, are you talking about in the freedom or sense of doing the things which may Islamically not be permissible, and there was no one out there really to kind of account you? What I mean by that is there are certain things maybe here that people would do, but not necessarily do back in Cyprus because of the community there.
No, I think we had to deal with what we had. You know, we've been displaced.
Right.
And all we had was the ability to work very hard.
Okay.
And, you know, my dad was a very straight man, very righteous man. He was a very, for his people, you know. After witnessing half of his people being massacred and buried in mass graves, he grew up without a dad. We didn't feel any of that because I was born here.
Yeah.
So I heard the stories, but I guess we were too interested in watching the banana splits on telly.
Yeah. You know? Well, one thing is for certain, as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned about sadaqah jariyah, the ongoing charity. And one of those ongoing charity is obviously the masjid. So your dad, you know, put his heart and his effort in putting the mosque together. And the sadaqah jariyah will continue as long as people are using the mosque.
Exactly.
Right. And your father, without doing anything more, will be getting the reward, the thawab for that. Bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Just to mention a couple of things really, is there's a misconception about the purpose of the mosque. And some of those things are due to the lack of Islamic knowledge, also to do with kind of culture. Now, we've got to be careful here because there is a difference between culture and Islam.
Very much.
And there's also not necessarily prohibited. So there could be aspects of a certain culture which do not negate Islam, and it's not an issue. One of those things I will tell you is the South Asian community. They are not very forthcoming for women to come into the mosques.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
No, you're not the only one. Now, all the Turkish mosques that I've been to...
Can I just say something?
Yeah, sure. No, I was just going to say, to all the Turkish mosques that I've been to in Turkey as well, where I visited, every mosque that I've been to, they have a specific area for women to pray, for the elderly to pray, and those that are not able to get to the front to the mosque.
Right. So we've got a problem. We've got a big problem. You know, it's very hypocritical.
Yeah.
Or some cultures.
Yep.
If you're practicing Islam, Islam itself is beautiful. The teachings of Islam is beautiful. If the teacher is intelligent enough and not ignorant to lead his house. You know, what gets me, and I'm not Islamically trained, I've been here over 10 years. And in our teachings, which is the most sacred thing that I've heard and it stayed in my mind. After Allah, paradise is found at the feet of our mothers. If that is the case, and we're preaching and we're teaching this, why are we treating our women so bad?
Sure.
All right. I don't think that's very Islamically, but again, this is down to the cultures.
Exactly.
All right, and there's the problem. You can't be a Muslim and then treat your woman or your mum with disrespect. She's brought you into this world.
Yeah.
She should be your goddess. Okay? Well, why don't we cater for our women? Why do we make it so hard for them?
Yeah.
And living in a Western environment and having 4 sisters, I've seen the challenges that we went through as a family, and I think the women in our household have been treated really badly.
Yeah. But I will add to that things are changing now.
They are.
And it's the fact that the younger generation are becoming more educated. I'm talking about Islamically speaking. So there's a lot more youngsters abroad studying, learning, coming back, teaching, rectifying a lot of the problems and situations in the Muslim community. Going back to the mosque now.
I think you said that they're educating themselves.
Yeah, look, that's the whole point. You see,
we can't be narrow-minded.
No, absolutely.
We're living in a very multicultural society.
Diverse. We are very diverse.
We need to learn how to be a little bit more respectful.
Of course, it's not. And respect is one of those things, but the other thing is really to understand what is our purpose in life. And we say, as Allah says in the Quran, that I have only created man and jinn except to worship me. And worship, ibadah, is not just salah, is not just reading Quran.
No, it's a way of life.
But the Prophet Muhammad,
the intention.
Exactly.
You know?
But the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, or his wife Aisha radiallahu anha, she said that the Prophet was the walking, talking Quran, meaning his character, his actions.
He experienced a lot of grief. He had a lot of pain.
Exactly.
You know? I actually been to Mecca, which was an amazing journey for me, because I never envisioned that I would make it. I'd done the journey, and I looked at the Prophet's pain, how he was treated, how he was stoned, how he was outcast, how he buried 6 of his children, how he was separated from his mother and he didn't get to her grave until he was 50s. There's a lot of pain, there's a lot of trauma, and the only thing that can develop out of that is love and to teach. And the Quran teaches the morals, the principles, the integrity, the love, you know, the intention. What is our purpose? Our purpose is to give. We get power from giving. The frequency of the body changes when you give, you know. And I think through his pain and his suffering, he's trying to translate that. So I think he's done bless him, peace be upon his soul. He's left an amazing path, legacy. But it's up to us to translate that in the way that he meant it.
And exactly what you said, his legacy. And one of those paths, as you mentioned, of his legacy is the mosque. Why is the mosque a legacy or a path? Is because the masjid or the mosque is supposed to be the hub of the community. Yeah, when it mentions the community, it does not mean just the Muslim community.
Everybody.
Yeah, and look, the reality is the purpose of the masjid is obviously for 5 times salah, Salatul Jum'ah. That's the basics.
Safe space.
That's the absolute basics.
Yeah. Safe space, teaching, women's groups.
Exactly.
Circles.
Exactly.
A place to meet people, safe space. A place for the children to come and run around.
Yes.
You know, if I'm praying and I hear the kids making noise, I love it. Because I want that kid not to feel fear.
Not just kids, but I will tell you, earlier on as I was sitting down, I could hear some strange noises and I couldn't understand where the noise was coming from, so I looked up.
My cats.
Exactly. right? So first I just saw something run past, and I just thought to myself, hang on, this is a masjid, yeah, there's not supposed to be no spooky things going on here, right? But saying that, I'm quite surprised to see cats in the masjid. But in Turkey, again,
They're all over the place.
they're all over, inside and
Because
outside
they
the
have a
masjid.
kindled spirit. They have. It's deep with the cats. Don't dismiss the presence of a cat.
Of course.
They see the spirits. They see different frequencies that we do. Even look, when we're doing the janazah, our cats will come up to the family and let them know. They can feel them. They can feel their grief. And they're the guardians. My cat here, well, I've got 5 cats.
Oh,
Name them?
Go on
I've
in.
got Aya, I've got Fat Boy, I've got Chi, I've got Gingy, and I've got Moses.
Moses.
Yeah. Aya is the guardian, is the mascot for the mosque.
Okay.
And they have a spiritual presence. They have a purpose, you know, and they indicate whether good spirit, bad spirit, or they can see things. So, you know, we love our cats.
Yeah. I mean, and there's no harm, because if you went to the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu mosque,
They keep the mice
Medina,
away, man.
exactly. That's the main thing. And when I was in the masjid, they were running around, and even when I was outside, I started playing with the ginger cat. And you know, you do find a connection.
You connect.
Yeah, you have
'Cause
that
they
connection
feel
with
you,
it.
man. They feel
Exactly.
We
Yeah.
have a frequency.
Yeah.
You know, I say to people, I try to simplify things. To change your frequency, to feel at peace, you have to live your life with love in its purest form and good intention. And everything else will fall into place. All right? If you start with those 2 frequencies, you're going to get to where you go. In peace, the moment you bring anger into the space, the moment your direction changes. All right? So I've been angry, and it took me a while to change and to accept. And I put that down to my growing up and my experiences and not knowing how to manage that. So I've done a lot of mileage.
You know, there's a strange thing, but I heard a quote once, and it said, honor your anger. And, you know, I really couldn't grasp the concept, but in reality, to me, when I heard that quote, honoring your anger doesn't mean you're justifying your anger. It means to understand what was your anger and not to go back to it. And why, yes, obviously.
And what benefit does that anger have?
You're right.
None.
Well,
'Cause
that's...
you own that.
Yeah.
You know, you can be road raging at someone, but the guy in the car next door is like, what's he screaming about?
Yeah.
You're holding that. Why?
And that's why the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu he said that anger ruins everything. Ruins.
Yeah.
We've seen that. But tell me, Egg Arby, if I can call you that.
Okay.
Coming back to this masjid here, Masjid Ramadan, Shakawa Lane. I've only been in the area about 12 years, and I was quite frequent here actually. There were some classes that used to be here. I think on the side hall it was, right, and it was quite active every kind of Friday night. And then there was some times where they would do events here in the main hall as well. And we actually brought some scholars to do some lectures here some years ago. And on and off, I've seen the mosque going through different phases. There was, I think, Mufti Menk was here once as well, right? So there was, it got a lot of attention.
We had this pact. We tried to do things to raise money. Equally as exciting and as amazing that was, behind it was trouble.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the time and place, but the promoters behind that, we were promised 125 grand. There was pledges. Not all of that money came in. We needed to do the roof, and we need to go back to the beginning of that. How I got here, what I was challenged with, where I come from, and I was.
We will come back to that.
It's important because it's part of my journey here and what I found here.
Sure. So I'll tell you what. I mean, that, like I said, will have to be in another session, and maybe in more sessions than just the one or two.
So.
But in reality of the masjid now, you know, where do you think the mosque is right now?
We're in danger.
Okay.
Let's not make no bones about it. Cost of living's gone up.
Mm.
Maintenance, parts, everything. We've lost 1,000 members of our community. We've got another 20 mosques around here.
Sure.
Our congregation is not very rich.
Hmm.
They're struggling to pay their bills, so we're only collecting 200-300 quid on a Friday. 400 if we're lucky.
Right.
We need £4 grand a month.
Subhanallah.
Okay. I've been paying for this out of my own pocket for the last 10 years.
Hmm.
All right. And when I got here, it wasn't in a good way.
Yeah.
The roof was coming down. We had to raise money. The imam was not doing what he was supposed to be doing.
Hmm.
That's another story for another day. All right. But it wasn't nice what I found. And the imam's responsibility is to raise money.
Yeah.
Tell the congregation, listen, we need to fix this, we need to do that. He weren't doing his job.
Sure.
So I had to get rid of him. I brought in another imam, Abdullah. Now I've got to throw this in. I used to have a nightclub.
Okay.
I went from nightclub to mosque.
Okay.
I had an argument with Allah, and I lost the argument.
Subhanallah. I like the way you put it.
That's my reality. I said to him, "You got the wrong bloke." He said, "You're gonna do it." I said, "Listen, you got the wrong bloke." I'm not elaborating the full conversation, but put it this way: I got a sign, and I thought maybe I need to be here.
Mm.
Huge responsibility, because funerals, mosque, the title, what it is, what it represents, it's not a joke for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to step up because no one else could. I was offered 13-14 million quid at the time for the building, and all they wanted to do was put flats on it.
Right.
And money wasn't going to solve my problem. Personally, it was just going to create 30 million more problems. The mosque needed support, the mosque needed help. I had to get rid of the imam. I got hold of another imam for a friend, Abdullah. I said, listen, your job, peace, love and harmony, no politics, no rubbish, until I get my head around what's going on here. I never run a mosque before.
Sure.
I'm not Islamically trained, but my morals, my principles, my integrity, my spirituality, my relationship with Allah has always been strong. And I feel very blessed and humbled that I became a funeral director overnight.
Yeah.
I was in the deep end. I was like, what am I doing, man? What I've got to wash this body. I've got to prepare this. What is this? What's going on? And I said, if it's good enough for my dad, it's good enough for me. If this is what my dad had to do, this is what I'm going to do. And with that, I continued. Everybody should wash a janazah. It's a life-changing experience, okay? It humbles you, it teaches you the value, and if you're lucky enough, you'll see the spirit in the room, okay? It's a very powerful moment. And I had to deal with all of that. And I come here and it was troubled. I tried different communities. Before I get to that, we've got Abdullah. He's, I think, African, Nigerian descent. Revert, educated in Egypt, 6 years. Beautiful voice. I said to him, please, till I get my head around this. And the congregation then was majority mainland Turkish. And they said to me, who's this guy? I said, he's the new imam. And they said, no. I said, what do you mean? I said, we can't pray behind him. I said, why? I said, he's not one of us.
Subhanallah.
I said, what? said, what do you mean? He's black.
Hmm.
I said, wow. I was shocked. And now I come from nightclub
Hmm.
where everybody's the same.
Yeah.
As long as the DJ's playing the right music, doesn't matter whether you're black, white, Christian, Jew, non-believer, we're all dancing and we're all feeling that.
Yeah.
And then to come here and to tell me you're not going to pray behind this man because of his colour
Hmm.
is a big pill for me to swallow.
Yeah. Hypocrisy as well.
Oh man, my God, I can't explain where I was with it.
Hmm.
I was looking up to God and I was thinking, I thought I got rid of the problem when I got rid of the imam that had his hand in the till.
Yeah.
But the problem was bigger. And I said, we got a problem. I said to them, we got a problem. I said, let me tell you, if you can't pray behind this black imam, educated in Egypt, 6 years, until I get my head around this. My wife's Jewish.
Hmm.
What do you want me to do with my wife?
Hmm.
Because we got problems. I said, you lot are in the wrong mosque.
Hmm.
So I had all that to deal with. Start again. Made quite a few mistakes. Trial and error. I believed I was here by the divine intervention. He brought me here. What am I doing here? I wasn't prepared to sell the mosque. This is sacred. This
Hmm.
doesn't come second to nothing.
Hmm.
You know, and it is the heart and soul of the community. So I went through a transition period.
Hmm.
I tried this community, that community, this one. But what I didn't want to do is put one guy and his narrow views.
Yeah.
So what we do now, we alternate the imams. We have a lot of support from Tabliki,
Hmm.
Anwar, who's been here. He's helped me out. I tried a few things, didn't work. And where we are now, we're busy on a Friday.
Good.
It's packed,
Hmm.
no money.
Hmm.
Community hasn't got the support and the money to donate. The road closures, the LTNs, the ULEZ
Hmm.
has had a big impact.
Yep.
Uh,
What lack of parking?
lack
out
of
there.
parking, look, you know, really, Khan hasn't done us any favours.
No, absolutely not.
I'm not a supporter.
No.
Not a supporter of Meta Choban. Hackney has become one of the worst areas for business.
Yep.
It's not safe.
Hmm.
And all of their rules and regulations has had an impact on the mosque.
Of course.
Um,
Generally with everyone, but it's going to affect the mosques as well.
You know, they want to charge us per mile.
Yep. Yep.
That don't work for us.
Hmm.
Our revenue now comes from the funerals.
Hmm.
I wash the bodies. I drive the janazah.
Hmm.
I go to the cemetery. I backfill by hand. I make a point of the younger generation watching what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Now, I don't need to be here. This mosque doesn't give me a living.
Hmm.
I fund this mosque,
Yeah.
and it's too much for me now. I'm old.
Hmm.
I haven't got long left. I'm 59. That's my reality.
Hmm.
And if it doesn't get the backup and the support that it needs, it's going to go.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen. I've been really, really trying.
Hmm.
And I've been listening to the critics, but no support.
Sure.
You know, everyone's got something to say, or they
Mhm.
want to take over. There can't be no takeover. This is Islam. This is
Yeah.
a mosque.
Hmm.
You're obligated morally to support this mosque, and yet you turn your back on it.
Hmm.
Whoever you are,
Hmm.
even in our community, you know, I have to say my cousins, one's donated 10,000, one's donated
Mashallah.
5,000. We've raised roughly about 60,000, 65,000 pound. We need 200,000 pound so we can have the kids back in the mosque.
Hmm.
We haven't got no madrasa because the building doesn't pass the health and safety risk assessment.
Hmm.
And so we can't. I certainly will not take the risk of having kids in here and I'm not a plan in place to get them out or keep them safe.
Sure.
Right, so, you know, I've had to deal with all these challenges and I've had a lot of ignorance thrown at me, a lot of insults. God's my witness. My heart's clean. My love is pure. I live here. I moved in. You know, I'm this version. I'm the Cockney version of Islam, all right? And and I'm here to try and reach the younger generation. Don't lose touch. Even what the government done to us with the COVID scenario.
Sure.
This is a very important point. You're not allowed to wash the body. You're not allowed to come to the mosque to pray. You're not allowed to come to the cemetery. You're not allowed to backfill. All of this interfered with our spiritual commitment to the last journey, the most sacred journey we all make. All of us, nobody's exempt, was interfered with by this fake system, this fake government, for their own agenda. And this is part of the 2030 agenda. If you don't know what that is, you need to watch it. All right? Google the 2030, smart cities, cashless society, no one moving. You leave your borough 100 times, you're going to get fined. Credit card's not going to work. Limited your movement across the planet. This is the devil's work.
Yeah.
Right? And that is impacted on our freedom, our spirituality, our movement, our ability to survive and to try and help the community. Christians, Jews, black, white, I don't care. You know, there's a saying that we say, the only time you should be looking down on someone is when you're helping them up. All right? So all of that energy is gone because we're trying to concentrate on feeding our kids, keeping them safe. You know, you don't read about the shootings, drive-bys in Stamford Hill in the papers. In the crossfire, a woman gets shot. You don't hear about the stabbings. You don't hear about the muggings. And this has all had an impact with the road closures and the way we live. And, you know, a message to Khan, that's not very Islamic.
No, absolutely
You've
not.
crippled our mosque.
Yeah.
It is at risk. It's not a joke. There's a lot of developers interested in this site. We need funding. We need support. We need a lot of money. Otherwise, we have to look at our next step. You know, I'm a very stubborn man. My morals and my principles are everything. If I give you my word, to the death. Okay, so I stand by my word. I'm here. The other options is it gets redeveloped with a super mosque, classrooms, shops, retail outlets, underground car park.
So that's your vision.
It's not my vision. It's an option. That's not where I want to go. There has been millions of prayers been said in this place. When you walk into this space, it's very sacred. All right? It would be a tragedy. It would be a tragedy for that to happen to this mosque. But without the backup, without the community, without the money, you're giving me no options.
Yeah. Egg, we're going to have to come towards the end of the podcast now. Obviously, it's nearly Salatul Asr. Just want to end with one final point from myself and yourself as well. And the reality is that when a masjid is built and then it's not being used to its full extent, then there's a problem, and even the community can be sinful for that masjid not
sin.
operating.
It's a big sin.
And therefore we have to work harder now to ensure that the masjid continues to run for another 50, 100, 200, 300
Inshallah.
years, inshallah, here. So just to finish off, what is your message to the community?
You better pull your finger out. It's simple, all right? If you believe that there is a divine, if you believe in the thereafter, where are you? You know, I have seen from my eyes failure to stand up. Hypocrites, liars. Stand up, be heard, support your mosque. Come behind me, come beside me, come in front of me. Don't let nothing happen to this mosque. We need financial support. We need the community back. We need the young boys to stand up and be counted. Don't get lost. Don't go the long way round.
Jazakallah khair, Egg, for all your advice and for your hard work and your family's hard work, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless your father and your family for the good work they have done. And bi'idhnillah ta'ala, we will be back again and again until the community wakes up a little bit, and until then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.